Throughout the shiny hunting community, there are some Pokemon you always hear brought up in conversations about the most difficult shiny hunts. Salazzle and Vespiquen because of the gender-based evolutions, Safari's own Chansey because of its extremely low encounter rate, and the one that stands above them all as arguably the most difficult shiny Pokemon to obtain, Manaphy. Shiny Manaphy is only obtainable from the Manaphy Egg, as the Manaphy is given out through the Wi-Fi events in Gen 6 were shiny locked. This wouldn't be too bad, except obtaining a Manaphy Egg is a challenge of its own. Manaphy Eggs are only found on cartridges of the spin-off games in the Pokemon Ranger series. Two of the games in the series, Shadows of Almia and Guardian Signs, unfortunately are no longer usable for collecting the Manaphy Egg since they require participating in a time-limited event to receive the egg. This means that the only way you can get a legitimate Manaphy Egg today is by completing the RangerNet mission, Recover the Precious Egg, in the original Pokemon Ranger game. To complete this mission, you must first play through the main Pokemon Ranger story. Once you've done this, you will gain access to the RangerNet where you can unlock the needed mission. Playing this mission will give you the Manaphy Egg and you can finally transfer it to the Sinnoh game of your choice. There is one possible problem that you can encounter with this, however. There's only one Manaphy Egg per cartridge. Unlike usual video game saves, when you reset the save file, the RangerNet missions are not reset, so once the Manaphy Egg has been claimed from the cartridge, you can't receive another one from the same game. This adds another layer of complexity to hunting, since you can't just go buy a used copy of the game and gather a pile of Manaphy Eggs. Fortunately, you don't have to play the entire game to find out if the Manaphy Egg is still on the cartridge or not. I'll talk more about that a bit later. Once you have your Manaphy Egg transferred over to the Sinnoh game, there's still more to this hunt than just hatching the egg and soft resetting if it isn't shiny. I learned this method from a video by Shiny Collector 98, so I'll link his video down below where he explains it way better than I could. One of the important things to note about this hunt is that unlike soft resetting for a legendary such as Ho-Oh, where the Pokemon stats are random every time, the Manaphy Egg will always hatch the same Pokemon on the same save file, the same as hatching any egg multiple times. So in order to account for this, you'll need to hatch the egg on different saves each time you hatch it. So the most efficient way to do this hunt would be to hatch the egg on save file 1, if it's not shiny, trade it to save file 2, and while hatching on save file 2, reset the first save so that you have a fresh save to transfer to if the Manaphy isn't shiny on the second save. This method is a bit more involved than most shiny hunts, and making the process of finding the Manaphy Egg even more daunting, this method heavily benefits from having multiple Manaphy Eggs to hunt with. The idea of buying upwards of 15 copies of Pokemon Ranger just to find enough Manaphy Eggs to properly hunt with can make this hunt seem completely unreasonable to most people, not only for time reasons, but also because of how expensive it can end up being. However, there's a way to significantly cut down on the amount of money that you would have to spend to obtain multiple Manaphy Eggs. This is the method that I use to obtain my 10 Manaphy Eggs, completely legitimately and at practically no cost. I live in the US, so I can't promise that this method will work for everyone, but I hope that it can lower the barrier of entry for this hunt for you all, if even just a little. Before I had even figured out this method myself, I knew I was going to be finding my copies of Pokemon Ranger from local GameStops. Despite many people having negative views of GameStop, especially around the trade-in values they offer for games, I knew that finding a game that's over a decade old was going to be difficult to do anywhere else. Local game shops and conventions are few and far between, along with charging higher prices since the cartridges will be in better condition than just playable. This strategy may have played to my advantage in finding copies of the game that still contain Manaphy Eggs. While I obviously can't confirm this as fact, I imagine that someone selling a used copy of Pokemon Ranger complete in box is more likely to have completed every mission in the game, including retrieving the Manaphy Egg. So with GameStop being used as my store of choice for purchasing these games, here's how I managed to get my 10 Manaphy Eggs. With all of my playthroughs of Pokemon Ranger, none of them took over 12 hours of in-game time to beat and retrieve the egg, and some took as little as 6 hours. This is key to doing this for cheap because of GameStop's return policy for used games. The policy states if you are not completely satisfied, simply return the product within 7 days for your money back or identical exchange within 30 days of purchase. With a fairly short playtime, it's entirely possible to beat the game within the return period and get all of your money back. With this plan in mind, go on to GameStop's store locator, put in your location, and find out which stores in your area have copies of Pokemon Ranger for sale. When you go to the store, take a system that can play DS games with you. If you ask, they'll let you test out the game to make sure it works. As a side note, I recommend doing this anytime you buy a used DS or 3DS game in general, I've caught multiple cartridges where the contacts were too dirty to work before purchasing. If the game does boot, you can quickly check to see if the Manaphy Egg is still on the cartridge. There are a few different states that the cartridge can be in, and I'll explain each of them. The first state is that, when you're on the main menu for the game, there is no option for RangerNet. This means that the copy of the game has never been beaten and therefore the Manaphy Egg is still on the cartridge. This isn't game over yet though. If the RangerNet option is present, then select it from the main menu. On the menu you are brought to, there will be one or two options to choose from. The first option will always be play a special mission, and there may or may not be a second option. If the second option is there, the Manaphy Egg is still on the cartridge and can be collected without playing through the game if the option is to check the egg. Finally, if there is only one option on the RangerNet menu, select it and see if the mission Recover the Precious Egg exists. If it isn't there, or if it is there and has new next to it, then the cartridge still has the Manaphy Egg. However, if the mission is listed and doesn't have new next to it, then the mission has already been played and the Manaphy Egg collected. Now that you know if that copy of Pokemon Ranger has the Manaphy Egg on it, you can decide whether or not to buy the game. If you do buy the game, beat it and collect the Manaphy Egg within the return period, and return the game to GameStop. Repeat this for as many Manaphy Eggs as you want, and there you go! Manaphy Eggs at next to no cost. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully this video was helpful in making the elusive shiny Manaphy a little bit more obtainable. If you guys are new to the channel and interested in shiny hunting in general, consider subscribing. I live stream shiny hunting almost daily, and sometime very soon I will be starting my shiny Manaphy hunt right here on my channel. I hope to see you all again soon.